Welcome everybody to an ancient box deck profile. This will be the first deck profile I've done since Hurricane Helen. And if you want to know what happened to me and how I lost my house and all that kind of stuff, you can find that video on my channel, so you can go check that out if you'd like to. Otherwise, before we get into the deck profile, I want to talk about Roaring Moon, aka Ancient Box, a little bit. So this deck is really cool because its pros far outweigh the cons, and some of those pros are the fact that you're playing a deck that are most of your Pokemon are one-prizers, so it takes a while for your opponent to really win the game, so you can afford to make slow decisions where you're sitting there and going, okay, well this might take me a couple of turns. Am I able to let something die and allow my opponent to take a prize card while I set up for this? And the answer with this deck is usually yes. Other decks like Ogerpon or the Reggie deck that copies Dragon's Engrave, or decks like, say, Lugia, they can't afford that luxury because they run so many EXs and Vs and all kinds of cards that your opponent's going to take two prizes from, that you really need to start pumping through your engine fast and getting to answers fast. But this deck you can be a little slower with, thankfully. And most of the time you don't really need to be slower, because another pro for this deck is how consistent it is, as well as how quickly you get to your board turn 1. If you don't know already, this is a going second deck, because when you go second and you have Roaring Moon as your active, you can get it loaded with 2 energies and be hitting for an upwards of 120 damage every single turn immediately. And if you don't, you have Fluttermane in the active zone to help you stall your opponent until you're ready to start dealing damage. Now let's talk about some of the cons. Some of the cons for Roaring Moon are you have exactly 2 supporters that are very important to the strategy, and getting to those supporters can be a little rough. So the 2 supporters I'm talking about are Professor's Vitality and Explorer's Guidance. Vitality equips 2 energy from your discard to up to 2 of your Ancients, and Guidance you look at 6 and then add 2 and then mill the rest. Getting to these is tough, so you need to use cards that allow you to kind of mitigate that gap you have, because most decks they just run like 4 Arven, 4 Iono, Boss's Orders, like stuff like that, and they're fine, but this deck doesn't really have that luxury, because Arven is really cool and you can run it, but it doesn't really commit to your strategy all that much besides grabbing Ancient Box itself, or Secret Box itself. And another weakness is Roaring Moon can't compete very well with really big bodies. For example, Tinkaton. Tinkaton is 300 HP, so Roaring Moon typically has to be late game to start dealing enough damage to really threaten Tinkaton. And if they've got multiple Tinkatons set up and they have their draw engine ready, you're sitting there kind of with like a headless duck. So this deck, this list is prepared to deal with those 2 weaknesses, and I'm going to show you the weakness to that ability to put up damage right here with 2 Roaring Moon EX. This card solves your issue of not being able to kill properly, because its first attack just knocks out your opponent's Pokemon. It does 200 damage to itself, so with the tool on it, it'll have 90 HP left, and you're only really using this to take out problematic cards. And you could just run 1 if you wanted to, but I like the 2 because otherwise, the ancient cards you would be running are bricks, and you only use them for discards. Putting them in the active zone is not good. So for example, the Brute Bonnet, the Koraidon, just all of the ancients besides Roaring Moon and Fluttermane are all bad. And this one is just so much better, and it also deals with your issue of not being able to kill things immediately, and needing to take a couple turns to do so. Plus, against decks like Lugia, where they are putting out Jamming Tower every other turn, you can use the second attack to do 220 and discard that stadium. And of course, you're also playing stadiums yourself, like Pokestop or Artisan, so that you can be dealing that 220 more consistently as well. Aside from that, we are running for Roaring Moon. This is your main body. This is the Pokemon you're going to be using to deal most of your damage. It's a 1 prize card, and its first attack, Vengeance Fletching. It says this attack does. Jesus Christ, I can't words. This attack does 10 more damage for each ancient card in your discard pile. And usually, turn 1, going second, you'll have like 1, 2, 3. You'll have quite a few unless you Explorer's Guidance and are able to go Energy from Hand and then Dark Patch. This card is incredible. You're never going to be using the second attack, don't even worry about that. Next Pokemon is Fluttermane. This is just to put in the active spot to stop opponents' abilities and kind of control the game state for a bit until you're ready to start swinging with the Roaring Moon. But you do have to be careful, because if your opponent has Boss's Orders, they can just simply keep this in the active zone until they're ready to kill the Roaring Moon. But you could also just use Vitality to equip an energy to this, retreat it, and then just start swinging. So just be mindful of that. 1 Brute Bonnet. So I mentioned that this card is indeed a brick, but it is one of the few bricks that you can actually use. So for example, Koraidon, it needs Fighting Energy, and it needs Fire Energy to use the second attack. You don't want to run those energies. The other Ancients, they need like Lightning, Fighting, they need all kinds of different energies. You don't run those energies. So Brute Bonnet has a little more versatility because it can poison the opponent's active Pokemon if you equip a tool to it, and the second attack, you can just start doing 120 every other turn, because you can't attack with it twice in a row. You have to wait a turn after you attack with it. So it's just something that is an Ancient that I mostly discard, but does have some utility. 1 Great Tusk. This card is also not great, but use it as discard, and you actually use it to mill your opponent for decks like Snorlax Stun. You can mill their deck. Stuff like, I believe it's Iron Hands, or no, not Iron Hands. It's the Tyranitar Future deck. That is pretty much just Snorlax. You just use this to mill out decks like that. And then those are all for the Ancient Pokemon. I'm running 1 Pecharunt EX. I don't have the Fezandipity, and reading Fezandipity, I was kind of like, I can probably do without this. Pecharunt EX is really good though, because it allows you to free retreat your Roaring Moons and your Brute Bonnets and stuff. And then its second attack, Irritated Outburst, is also pretty good. Because if you're a late game and your opponent's taking a bunch of prize cards, you can use this to do a crap ton of damage. As far as other Pokemon go, 1 Radiant Greninja. You run 7 energies, so this is just good draw power. And then the Iron Bundle. This is just a target for Nest Ball and Artisan and other stuff like that, because you can bench this and then go ability, switch out your Pokemon, shuffle it into the deck, and it just allows you to play around certain cards, like Snorlax, for example. Very good. Moving on to the supporters, I'm running 3 Professor Sada's Vitality, and I apologize for the camera quality. I'm going to try to get a GoPro to be able to record things better, but this is just where we're at right now because Hurricane Helen took everything. But for Professor Sada's Vitality, this card is crazy. It attaches 2 energies to 1 and 1 of your ancients, and then you draw 3 cards if you attach an energy. Very good card. 3 Explorer's Guidance, or excuse me, 4 Explorer's Guidance. This card you just look at the top 6, add 2, and then discard the rest, so it's really good for milling your deck to deal more damage with the Roaring Moon. And then 1 Boss's Orders. The reason that I am running 1 Boss's Orders as opposed to 2 or more is because in this deck you run 2 Countercatcher because you're usually behind on prize cards. Because it takes you a little bit to kill big bodies, and also usually whatever you have out in your active first is going to be sacrificed unless you have the ability to attach 2 energies immediately. For stadiums, I'm running 3 Pokestop, and I would be running an Artisan, but it is currently in the mail. So right now I'm not running the Artisan. So just know that if you want to run the Artisan, you can. You don't have to. It really doesn't change much, to be honest. It just allows you to put out more Roaring Moons as opposed to like a Nest Ball, which is only a single time. But Artisan can theoretically get you to like 4 over the course of 4 turns. Or Earthen Vessel. This card is great because not only is it an ancient card, but it also discards. So it allows you to put stuff in grave to deal more damage, and then it also goes to grave. So you can theoretically get 2 ancients in grave off of it to get 2 energies to set up. I'm also running 4 Pokegear 3.0. This just digs your deck for your supporters, and if you noticed, we were running like less than 6 supporters. So this is just to get you there. That's really all it's for. Then I'm running 3 Ultra Ball because you do want to discard ancient cards to grave, and late game, that attack gain is going to really matter. So this is just a way to get you there. 3 Nest Ball. Self-explanatory, you just bench a basic. Yeah, you just bench a basic. 2 Countercatcher. Again, you are behind on prize cards normally in this deck. It's not like Tankaton where you're setting up turn 1 and then turn 2 you're just killing things immediately. This deck is very slow, and you need to be patient with it. So that's why we're running the 2 Countercatcher. 2 Dark Patch. I kind of want to bump this to 3, because in testing, Night Stretcher is cool, but adding the energy to hand as opposed to just attaching it immediately is kind of suboptimal, and you already have stuff like Super Rod and like various other ways to get Roaring Moon out of discard pile and back into your deck. Like, if you're really needing Roaring Moon, you're not going to need 2 Super Rods or 3 Super Rods or whatever, because normally the first Super Rod is going to get you there. You're not going to need like 10 Roaring Moons out at once. Usually you need like 2 or 3 to really seal the game up. So I just like Dark Patch better, because, and especially with the Roaring Moon EX, because with the EX you need 3 energies for both attacks, but Dark Patch allows you to go Dark Patch, energy, Vitality, energy, energy to something else, and then go energy from hand. Or if you draw a double Dark Patch, you can use both. And again, you can play Arven if you want to get to this kind of stuff, because it is very item heavy, as you can tell, especially with Secret Box being an item, and you do run 4 tools, so Arven might be something that you look into, but it's not necessary because of cards like Pokestop. Secret Box is crazy. Searching Pokestop, you literally go +1 with this card, and then Pokestop you can theoretically go +3 by milling 3 items and then adding all 3 to hand. 1 Super Rod, this is just to shuffle back Roaring Moon, or energies if you really want to discard something to get more damage and then go Earthen Vessel. Energy retrieval, this is pretty much just to grab energies from discard pile, because there will be some times where you're like, man, I wish I had an energy in hand right now. One Pal Pad, this is to recycle your Professor Sada's Vitality. That's pretty much mostly what it's for, but you can also recycle your boss's orders to pull something out that you need to kill. And we're running 4 Ancient Booster Energy Capsule. This card's great. I do kind of wish it was a little more HP, like if it made Roaring Moon 250 or something, that would be wonderful. But it would also be incredibly broken because 250 for a basic one prizer is kind of insane. So it's fine as it is, and it's good as it is, but can't help but feel that you want it to be better for a deck that you love, you know? And as for energy, we are running 7 Dark Energy. You can bump this down to 6. You can bump this up to 8 or 10 if you want to. It's all preference. If there are things that you want to cut, it's fine. But I found that 7 is my comfort zone, and 7 is the point where I'm able to get my engine going and have everything ready and not really be wanting for energy early, mid, or late game, so this is just what I'm comfortable with. And yeah, that's the deck profile. Now, before we end things off, I'll go ahead and do or show some stuff that you can do with the deck. So, for example, obviously, if you draw, let's say you draw a hand, and then I'm gonna make the 7th card like, I'm gonna grab Secret Box, and this can show you the utility of Arven going second as well. So, for example, let's say that you just got a Roaring Moon out. We're gonna pretend these other cards here do not exist, okay? And you do your prize cards here. I need to shuffle a little bit because the deck was in presentation order. Let's do your prize cards here. Now, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's say you're going second, and you have Secret Box. You can go Secret Box, discard, or if you have Arven, you can go Arven, grab Secret Box, and then go Secret Box, discard the capsule you searched, if you really wanted to, which makes it a 1-card, or not a 1-card combo, you have to discard 3 here. So you discard 3 for Secret Box, search for a Stadium, a supporter, an item, and a tool. Now, this will change depending on your hand, obviously, but usually you should be trying to get to these 4 cards, and here's the reason. So you can go Earthen Vessel, discard a random card, search for 2 energies, now let's say you have the Flutter Mane out here. You can go attach, retreat the Flutter Mane, bring out a Roaring Moon, and then you have an energy and discard pile to use Vitality for. So then here, you go Pokestop, do mill 3, 1, 2, 3. We grab the Counter Catcher because it's an item. And now this is your hand so far, so theoretically, let's say we had a Flutter Mane out, or just any sort of bench Pokemon. Like, for example, I saw that I drew a Roaring Moon in my opening hand. Let me grab that real quick. And like I said, this is all hand dependent. So let's say here, you go equip, retreat, put out the other Roaring Moon. You can go Vitality, equip, or excuse me, attach. And then you can draw 3 here. And this gets better if you have Dark Patch, because if you have Dark Patch, that means you can load this up instantly, or if you discarded an energy prior, you can just load it up instantly. So I'm going to do an actual hand. I just wanted to showcase the secret box. Just because some people will want to run Arven to be able to search it and get their turn 1 going much quicker. But you don't have to, because this deck's specialty is being able to play slow and not lose because it's playing slow. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you do 6 prize cards, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Place. Then draw your 8th card when you're going second. So now with this hand is kind of crazy actually. So with this hand, and to be honest, I'm being for real, I'd probably keep the Roaring Moon EX out. So here, you can go Vessel, discard an energy, search for 2 energy. And you can go energy on Roaring Moon, capsule on Roaring Moon, Vitality, equip an energy to it, and then you draw 3. 1, 2, 3. And you could probably poke a gear here if you wanted to, or you could save it in case your opponent has Iono. Because if they Iono you, that means this is going to still be in deck, so that you can get it later, after searching and shuffling. With this hand, you probably pass here. If you wanted to, you could have Explorer's Guidance instead, and played more slow with Iron Bundle out in the active spot, in case you were worried about your opponent killing the Roaring Moon EX turn 3. And it is matchup dependent. Like, Festival Lead is not going to kill this turn 1. Lugia is a big maybe for if they can kill this turn 1. If they've V-starred, they might be able to kill this turn 1. Or, not turn 1, turn 3, excuse me. So you just have to be very cautious, and that's probably the best play, is just keep this out, because you can always shuffle this back in deck with like Super Rod or something. So you can pass here, draw for turn. You'll have another Roaring Moon, so you can go Roaring Moon. And then here I would probably go Basic Energy on the Roaring Moon, and then Explorer's Guidance to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And here you can add the Pokestop as well as the Greninja. And then you can just mill the rest. The reason I'm grabbing the Greninja is because if I go Pokestop here, and I hit an Earthen Vessel, I'll be able to bench the Greninja and just start getting my engine further online. So we go Pokestop, 1, 2, 3. We add these 2 to hand. And actually, this is really funny. You can go Energy Retrieval, discard a Pokegear, and discard Fodder Mane to grab these 2 energies. Just so you can go bench Greninja, discard, draw 2. So we drew Roaring Moon and Fodder Mane, which is really good because next turn we're going to be able to load these up if we want to. And then we have the Fodder Mane for discard. So here you can go attack, and you can either discard the stadium to do 220, or you can go attack and kill to do 200 to itself. And then your hand is looking like this. So then you can pass after killing. This probably dies next turn if your opponent's prepared for it, or if they're able to just get more than 90 damage on the board, which most decks are. You can draw, and also you can go ahead and put out the other Roaring Moon if you wanted to. Or you could put out the Iron Bundle, or if you benched the Roaring Moon normal earlier, you can do that instead. And so from here, I would probably do Pokestop first to mill 3, so Dark Patch, Pal Pad, and a Dark Patch. You add these 3 to hand. And you can load up a Roaring Moon EX and Roaring Moon normal pretty easily now. So Vitality, 1, 2, and then draw 3. 1, 2, 3. Very good draws, very good draws. And then from here you can go energy from hand on the Roaring Moon. Dark Patch, or the Roaring Moon EX. And then you can kind of just move from there. So yeah, just wanted to showcase the deck a little bit, and I hope you guys enjoyed. I've been playing this deck not super long, but coming from Yu-Gi-Oh! And going into Pokemon, I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Teaches a lot of very important fundamentals about card design, and not only card design, but also RNG, deck theory, deck building, all kinds of stuff. And going into Pokemon with the knowledge that I've gained from Yu-Gi-Oh! Has helped me adapt to Pokemon a lot better than if I hadn't played any other card games. Because Pokemon is definitely closer to Yu-Gi-Oh! Than it is to Magic, I feel like. And it's because of incredible card combos like Secret Box just getting you a full field, and a loaded up Roaring Moon turn 1 going second is crazy. And also just other stuff like going Pokestop to mill and then going +3 potentially. Just spiraling out of control with advantage is very cool. So thank you guys again for watching the video, and if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment. If you got any things you want to recommend to other players as well that are looking to pick the deck up, please do that in the comments below, and I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.